Okay, the next issue that we're going to try and tackle today is the rather thorny issue of scale practice and scales themselves. Now, for the majority of people, especially when you're young, the word scales can have some really horrible connotations. Okay, it can almost be like a kind of a punishment regime for you to have to do your scales. What I want to try and do here is to explain to you, first of all, why you would need to play them, why you need to have these things, what they're going to do for you. Well, first and foremost, scales are going to give you technique. Scales are going to allow you to play around your instrument, to play all of the various notes which are on your instrument. Okay, and it's going to find all the areas around, from the top to the bottom of the saxophone. Once that technique is established, the next thing it will do from a technical standpoint is it will allow you to speed them up. So it will give you speed and better dexterity around the instrument. Now, as this is a saxophone, the most widely associated thing that this would be put with would be the word jazz. I would assume that the majority of you as saxophonists would want to be improvisers. And at this point then, here's the rub. Scales as a jazz saxophonist is what we're going to use to improvise. It's the absolute building blocks of music, almost like if you could call it this music's DNA. Okay, everything that you're going to do, every solo that's ever been constructed, everything that you're going to want to play over chord patterns, over chord charts, is going to be built around scales. So unfortunately, we need to know them. We need to know what they are. We need to know the various different types, and there are quite a few different types of scales. And not only that, but the most important thing is that we need to be able to think about them, and we need to be able to process them in the 12 keys which we have available. So first and foremost, the thing that you should really be by now able to do is to identify the 12 keys using the cycle of fourths and fifths. Okay, you can look at them there and you can see all the different key signatures, and you can work out what they are. You know that as you come down the flats, that they have a particular way of you memorising them. As you come up the sharps, they also have a slightly different way. Okay, all these kind of things you can discuss with your teacher and read about in books. But whichever way round, there are various ways that you can learn about your key signatures. Whichever way round it is, you need to commit those to memory so that you are conversant in the 12 keys all the time. The second thing that we're going to want to do as regards to scales is we're going to need to get another thing which will come into your life now, a metronome. We need to get a metronome on the case, and we need to get you playing your scales with a metronome. This is going to, in its initial period, probably cause you to want to open the window and throw it out. You will always find with a metronome that the problem with it is that it will never lie to you, and it's always right. Okay, and you'll find it incredibly frustrating because then it's always you per se which is wrong. All right, you need to get that metronome going, and you need to be thinking about working on your scales at a nice steady tempo, a nice 70, 80 beats a minute, something like that tempo, where you can get the foundation right for you to have these scales correct in the 12 keys. Now, an awful lot of the tutor books that you'll be working from will only give you one scale here, another scale on another page. They might mix a minor scale in with a major scale. They might do this, that and the other. I would really suggest to you that you find a book which has got your 12 majors written in it, and that you learn them 12 majors, one after the other. That is it. There aren't any more majors, there are 12. So from one bit at the top of the page to get to the bottom of the page, you're probably talking about no more than about a minute, if that. Okay, the better you know them, the better things will be, because virtually every other type of scale, and there are lots and lots of other types of scales out there, you're going to pick up from your major scale. It's almost like the kind of mother scale, if you like, and the way that a lot of improvisers think is that they don't tend to take on the qualities of other scales. They just think about what's changed from a major scale. So if you talk about something like a blues scale, we know that we're going to play the first note of a major scale, we're going to play the third note, but we're going to flatten it. We're going to play the fourth note, we're going to play the fifth note, but we're going to flatten it. We'll play the fifth note itself, then we're going to play the seventh note, but flatten it, and then we're going to play the octave again. Okay? If we think about that from the major scale, it gives you an immediate reference point about where you are. So really, really important here. Get to know what your key signatures are, and one way that you can do this is as you're beginning to play your scales, is to actually say them before you actually play the scale. So if you took a scale of C major, no sharps and no flats. Okay, we go to F major, one flat, B flat. Scale of G major, one sharp, F sharp. Scale of D major, two sharps, F sharp, C sharp. Always thinking about saying them in the right order, same as the flats. Etc, etc. Now one thing that you are going to want to think about here is that you're going to notice fairly straight away that there are some around the bottom half of the cycle which have got, say, 7 sharps. Depending on which way that you actually want to think of them, some of them have got 7 flats. Now you might think, oh yeah, okay, well I won't use those too often. Well, that most certainly is not the case. In a standard blues progression, you would probably be blowing through about 7 or 8 different keys with the chords that are actually there. Okay, so you need to know all 12. It's as important for you to know the scale of C sharp major as it is important for you to know the scale of C major. All right, don't shirk the ones around the bottom part of that cycle. Make sure that you get in and learn those, especially if you're playing. Well, even tenor can be bad enough, but if you're playing alto saxophone as well, and you're going out and you're playing with guitar-based bands, rock bands, guitar players like nice open keys, A, E, B, that kind of thing. It's good for them to play in, but for you being a transposing instrument, you're then pushed around into kind of F sharps, C sharps, all that kind of area. Okay, you need to know what's at the bottom end of that cycle. So finally, when you're playing the scales, you need to think about playing them in good order, good speed. Okay, so you get them nice and tight, one note per measure, nice easy beats, 70, 80 beats a minute, and you expand your time. Okay, thinking about playing the arpeggios as well. And then as you progress through this, you want to start looking at publications which are going to give you exercises which will stretch you out on the scales which you're going to play. Okay, and will give you patterns to play them in, different variances, rhythm patterns, all this kind of stuff. And this will add immensely to your understanding of the language of jazz. So scales, they're very, very important. They're going to do all kinds of stuff for you. Make sure that you practice them. Make sure that you're diligent about the way that you practice your scales. They are going to really form the way that you turn out as a player.